The battle for survival in World War II was not always about firepower, but about endurance, adaptation, and, honestly, the will to outlast the enemy. For many viewers, World War II is remembered through massive offensives, iconic tanks, and dramatic air battles. Yet behind those headlines was a quieter, harsher conflict, a battle between the strongest to survive. Soldiers froze in forests, marched across deserts with limited water, and endured sieges where hunger became as deadly as gunfire. The real test was never just combat skill, it was resilience under pressure. Understanding how these men survived gives us more than history lessons. It reveals how preparation, mindset, and practical choices determined who made it home and who didn't. Today's discussion breaks down the environments where survival itself became the battlefield and, why those lessons still matter to anyone interested in history, preparedness, or endurance. The Eastern Front, really became the ultimate test of physical and mental survival during the Second World War. On the Eastern Front, survival honestly depended on adapting to extreme cold exhaustion and relentless movement. German and Soviet troops faced winters that just destroyed equipment and morale. Soldiers learned pretty quickly that staying dry mattered more than staying warm, at least at first. Wet boots. Well, they led to frostbite faster than low temperatures alone. Many veterans described rotating socks, drying clothes near small fires, and digging snow trenches to block the wind as absolutely critical routines. These were not glamorous tactics, but, honestly, they saved lives. For modern survivalists or outdoor enthusiasts, the lesson is simple: manage moisture before chasing comfort. When camping or hiking in a cold environment, you should prioritize dry layers and controlled body heat, rather than just piling on heavy clothing that traps sweat. Why Stalingrad turned urban warfare into a battle of endurance rather than speed. The Battle of Stalingrad showed that strength often meant patience rather than aggression. Soldiers survived by learning to move slowly, conserve energy, and use buildings for insulation against freezing winds. Small groups held positions for days with minimal supplies, relying on rationed discipline and shared body heat during rest periods. The strongest fighters were not always the fastest shooters, but those who controlled panic and avoided unnecessary exposure. Applying this today means understanding resource management. When facing a long-term challenge, whether in wilderness survival or emergency preparedness, stretch supplies instead of consuming everything early. Even simple habits like portioning food and planning rest cycles can make a difference in stressful environments. How desert campaigns forced soldiers to master water discipline and heat management. In North Africa, survival meant respecting the environment more than the enemy. British and Axis troops learned to travel at specific times of day, rest in shaded areas, and cover exposed skin to reduce water loss. Vehicles carried extra water not only for drinking, but also for cooling engines, proving that logistics determined survival as much as weapons did. Veterans emphasized that thirst leads to poor decision-making, which often caused fatal mistakes. For anyone studying survival history, this translates into planning hydration strategies before entering hot conditions. Carrying layered clothing for sun protection and setting fixed drinking intervals helps prevent exhaustion long before dehydration becomes obvious. Pacific Island warfare, really tested endurance through humidity, disease, and isolation. The Pacific Theater introduced a different kind of survival battle. Jungle environments created constant moisture, infections, and psychological strain. Soldiers adapted by cleaning weapons daily, airing out boots whenever possible, and maintaining strict routines even when exhausted. Discipline became the strongest weapon against chaos. Many units survived because leaders enforced hygiene and organization despite the harsh conditions. Modern preparedness enthusiasts can apply this by building routines during stressful situations. Keeping gear organized, maintaining tools regularly, and sticking to simple daily habits reduces mistakes when fatigue sets in. Why survival strength during World War II often came from teamwork rather than individual toughness. One common thread across every theater of war was cooperation. Soldiers who shared knowledge, rotated duties, and supported weaker members really increased the group's chances of survival. Units that broke down into isolated individuals just struggled to endure long campaigns. Strength was collective. Even experienced fighters depended on others for watch duty, cooking, or medical support. In practical terms, anyone studying survival should train with others rather than alone. Practicing navigation, shelter building, or emergency drills with a partner builds communication skills that, honestly, matter more than physical strength alone. So how can modern viewers apply World War II survival lessons without, romanticizing hardship? Studying these battles should never glorify suffering, but it can provide a valuable perspective. The strongest survivors combined preparation with adaptability. They observed their surroundings, adjusted routines, and respected environmental limits. If you're building a survival kit today, focus on versatility. Choose clothing layers that handle both cold and moisture, pack lightweight tools that serve multiple purposes, and, practice mental resilience through controlled challenges like long hikes or overnight camping. The goal is not to recreate wartime hardship, but to understand how disciplined habits can reduce risk in difficult conditions. The battle of the strongest to survive was, in the end, really a battle of mindset. Across frozen fields, shattered cities, scorching deserts, and dense jungles, survival favored those who stayed calm under pressure and adapted quickly. Physical strength mattered, but mental clarity and practical decision-making often determined the outcome. World War II shows that endurance is built through preparation, observation, and teamwork rather than reckless bravery. For history enthusiasts, these stories reveal a deeper layer of the war, one where the environment itself became the enemy and resilience became the greatest weapon. If you value serious World War II history and real survival lessons drawn from the past, make sure to subscribe, share this video with fellow history buffs, and stay tuned for more deep dives into the strategies and stories that shaped an entire generation.